All right, we are live.
Hello, everybody.
We'll give people a second to get on here, and we're going to start sharing. Happy Sunday, everybody. All right.
Let's see okay, there we go. It's thinking about it.
It's always thinking about it.
Yeah, it takes it a minute. It has to think. It can't just do it. All right, come on. There we go.
All right.
One more.
All right. I think I've got us shared here.
All right. I think I've shared all I can share.
All we can share.
So, welcome to Marissa and Mike. We appreciate you guys getting on. We've got special guests tonight.
Yes. We're so excited to have them on. Thank you guys for joining us. I'll have my dad introduce our guests here, but just thank you guys for taking time out of your Sunday to be with us.
And tell them what they got to do to ask questions and stuff.
Okay.
You got this part down.
Yeah, before we get into everything. So if you have any questions for Summer and Robert throughout their story, feel free to leave them in the comments below. You do have to actually click on the video that you're seeing to leave comments. And so if you leave us comments, they'll show up on our screen, and we'll be happy to let Summer and Robert answer those questions. We'll probably do that more towards the end so we can let her tell her story, and we're just really excited to have them on. So I'll let you introduce them.
So with us tonight are Robert and Summer McGann. I've known Robert for close to 20 years. Yeah. And so obviously I know his wife through my relationship with Robert, but they've been through a health journey a lot like I have, where you start down a path and you don't know what the heck's going on. And then finally you get a diagnosis, and then you get to deal with all the things that come along with that. So Marissa, you say it way better than I do. So what I'm going to screw it up if I say it. So
all right. So Summer has ankylosing spondylitis, and I'm going to let her go through what that means, and also just kind of how she got there. So we'll have her just start at the beginning and tell us her awesome story.
Okay. Yeah, tell us about your family too and stuff. Yes. I know you got children and.
Right. Thank you guys for having us on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we do. Robert and I have 4 daughters and 1 granddaughter now. So yeah, busy life. We started young. So a lot of the times I thought that the aches and pains I was having was from having kids. I had 4 C-sections. So I've had a lot of surgical procedure, and I thought, well, maybe that's why my back hurts so bad. I've had all of these, epidurals and everything you need before you have surgery. And for years, my back would hurt, but it started getting a lot more after I had my 4th daughter, Patricia. I would try and walk up the stairs, and my back would go out on me. It would just, out of nowhere, a lot of pain. And I was in my 20s. So I didn't really know what was going on. I'd been in car accidents before. I'd been to chiropractors. I started with a chronic cough too. So it was kind of weird. I would go to the doctor and say, I have this cough and it's killing my back. Like I cough and then my back is just excruciatingly painful. And they would say, you have GERD. It's GERD. Let's try the medications for GERD. And it wouldn't work for me. That wasn't my problem. And I can't tell you how many doctors I went to looking for a diagnosis. It wasn't until a pulmonologist actually ran some inflammatory panel tests, genetic tests, and one of them came back, and it was the HLA-B27 test came back positive, and that's the genetic marker for ankylosing spondylitis. And I had researched for years. I mean, I've been in pain. Patricia right now is 12 years old. She'll be 13 soon. So right after she was born, I started this journey of pain in my body. So it's been a decade. of excruciating pain, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there any certain questions? I mean,
Sure. So when you start down that path, and I don't know how many doctors you saw, at one point in a 2-year span, I saw 45, but you start the journey, you go to doctors, nobody really has an answer. How did you deal with that when you're bouncing from doctor to doctor and nobody helps you get better? And how long did it take before somebody told you it was all in your head?
Oh, early on they told me it was in my head. Early on it was like, it's probably depression. This is probably anxiety, stress. You really need to de-stress. I mean, which didn't help the matter that I was hurting and I was exhausted. I would need a nap by 10 in the morning and I would feel guilty because I was so exhausted and in pain.
Yeah.
It took me years. I think I finally got diagnosed in 2014. Is that when I got diagnosed? 2014.
So how long was that from whenever you first started having pain?
7 years.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it's countless doctors. And also I had x-rays, CAT scans. Finally, ankylosing spondylitis was diagnosed for me. They need more than one thing to diagnose you. You can't just have a positive HLA-B27. That's one of the things. But I had bones growing on my feet, extra spurs on my feet. So they finally being sent to a rheumatologist. There is a place for all of the testing. I'm really grateful for the testing, even though I don't prefer doing things with biologics and things like that the rheumatologist had to offer me. But I had that x-ray. I had an MRI to confirm the inflammation in my hips and sacroiliac joint. That it was like, check, okay, yes, this is really happening. And finally, I mean, it was somewhat relieving to have a diagnosis. Somewhat relieving to, like, this is not in my head. I'm not making this pain up every morning when I wake up and it's excruciating, But then learning how to deal with disease, going through the grief process of I have a chronic degenerative disease and it was getting worse and I was having a hard time walking. I had a cane for about a year. I walked with a cane. That was really hard. Just from my pride, a young woman, desperately needing a cane. I had a handicap placard in my car. I can remember praying every time before I went in the store, like, God, just help me get through the store. I could do one thing a day. I could choose like one big thing I would do during the day. And that was like, let me make it through the grocery store.
Yeah.
It took all of my energy.
Yeah. I think one thing that my dad and I have talked about is, so you go through this journey of being sick all the time, but then you finally get the diagnosis, but that's not where it ends. That's where it starts. Because then, the journey starts of, okay, how am I going to deal with this? And what are my next steps? So yes, getting a diagnosis is great, but it's also just the beginning of really, where you're going to go from there. And so I'd love for you to kind of talk about that. So once you got your diagnosis, what was your next step? Did you start Googling or did you?
Yes, absolutely. I started Googling. I did feel some relief that I made sense, like, oh, this is exactly where my pain is. I have had some extra symptoms, like lung symptoms, and that's not the first thing they talk about with ankylosing spondylitis. That's something that you'll find out more, it's a little more hidden. Because secondary thing, oftentimes whenever you have one autoimmune disease, it's easier to be diagnosed with another. I also got diagnosed with fibromyalgia. It was, and my rheumatologist, he really didn't give me many options other than you need to do this biologic drug. This is my recommendation to you, do this biologic drug. And I didn't have peace with that because I had this chronic cough. And one of the primary side effects for biologic drugs is lung infections, tuberculosis type symptoms. And I didn't feel comfortable after, research and prayer and everything going on those drugs. I just never got the yes to do it. And I'm grateful. I'm really grateful at this point now I didn't, because I did find another path. It's been a lot for me. Nutrition has been, oh my gosh, like I've been around the block with diets and, you know, just to reduce pain, reduce symptoms. I mean, AS is an ugly disease. It's like primarily bones, but it does affect your gastrointestinal system, your lungs, your heart. It's like, oh my gosh, what does this disease not affect? There are some days I just felt like everything was just affected.
Yeah.
And managing symptoms with
So
whatever.
I got a question for Robert here real quick. So I know you've been sitting there being quiet, but you know, when you're the spouse of somebody that has one of these unexplained, I mean, I went for, it took me 5 years, kind of like you, to even begin to get diagnosis. But when all this is going on, I mean, you know, you go to see all these doctors, what's going through your mind? How frustrating is the process? How do you deal with, I mean, you guys are young and you have young children and you've got a wife who's got a cane and, you know, you're not, wait a minute, you're not supposed to have a cane, you know, in your 30s. I mean, that's not normal.
No, you know, it was really frustrating. You go to doctor after doctor, they'd run tests and they come back and be like, nope, there's nothing wrong with you. You know, for years, to the point where you didn't even want to go to the doctor.
Want to whack him with the cane?
You know, yeah, and so it was a tough process. You know, you see someone you love more than anyone else in the world hurting and in pain. I mean, at one point she had a walker. You know, she's a phenomenal cook, and she wanted to cook. She'd have to sit on the walker in the kitchen.
I would scoop myself around on the walker to move from side to side. It was pitiful. It was, I mean, sad.
Yeah.
Very sad.
People look at you now and they're going, wait a minute, she doesn't have a walker now. We'll get to the part, you know, I know you've like myself, you know, you figured it out, but it's a process. It was a long process. So as you're going through here and you have symptoms and, you know, the doctors aren't giving answers. I know you said you tried a lot of nutrition stuff. So just kind of take us down that. What are all the things that you've done in the past? I mean, you can just kind of rip down the list.
Sure.
Like, for example, I bet you've done gluten-free, right? I bet.
I'm still gluten-free, right? Gluten-free was my first thing. Take all of the inflammatory wheat and all the other things that are categorized gluten out of my diet. And that's a whole job on its own. I had to grieve food, you know, going through my pantry, getting everything out. Plus, I'm the cook. And I have 4 children at this point, and so I made us all go gluten-free. It was difficult.
Well, it was years ago too, before gluten-free was a thing. She had to learn how to read the labels. You couldn't just go buy gluten-free anything at that point. So it's very different today.
Yeah, we get excited now. You know, there's so much.
Yeah, exactly. No, I remember well. I went gluten-free. It was 10 years ago now, and so it was before it was cool. And you know, they didn't have things that labeled gluten-free like they do now. So it's definitely gotten a lot better over the years. But
well, and I thought I was doing good by going gluten-free, but then I tried no starch. I tried dairy-free. When my youngest was little, she had her little toy kitchen, and she made a sign, and it said DF, GF, SF, soy free. GF, DF, SF, and AF. And I was like, what's AF, baby? She's like, what? What is it?
Air free.
Air free. We don't smoke. She was little. She was like, the air's clean. I guess like, the food is clean, the air is clean. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Tried the whole gamut. Yeah.
That is too funny. Well, I'd love for you to talk a little bit too. We'll kind of talk about you guys' faith for just a second. I know that that's something that, you know, is tough for a lot of people right now as we're going through this pandemic. You know, a lot of people are, you know, asking where God's at. And I know that that's something that people who get sick, that's the first thing, you know, that a lot of people do will go, why me? Why God? Why is this happening to me? And so I'd love for you to talk a little bit about what you did, you know, during this time to combat those feelings and, you know, just your train of thought through this.
This is my favorite question. Yeah. I mean, because I already had this question before my own illness because I have daughters who are hearing impaired, who are deaf. I have daughters that are deaf. So thank God, love deaf culture. But yeah, there were times where I would say, what's going on here? But I have realized now, after walking through so many trials in a different way, that trials, I do run back to the Bible and I stand on it, and that trials are an opportunity for character growth and an opportunity. I can remember, just pleading with God over healing. Why aren't you healing me? I'm praying, and I found the verse. I think it was in the first chapter of James, and it was, so you will not be lacking any good thing.
Yeah.
And I realized that any good thing that I could be lacking is compassion for other people. I have a completely different perspective over any sort of illness or, struggle, suffering that someone is dealing with. It's opened doors to seeing we're not just a physical person, we're a spiritual person. People make sense. A lot of times diseases come out of other things that have happened in people's lives. We're a whole person. And so God has really generously comforted my whole person. I've had to go to the inside and find self-acceptance for wherever I've been at. Like, if I like God, again, like sitting in my car, literally saying, if you don't help me through the store, I can't get through.
Yeah.
I can't make it if you don't walk with me.
Right.
And he did.
Yeah.
And just, it's one day at a time, and he continues to bring things into my life. And I continue to say, yes, yes, I'll sacrifice and try all the crazy diets. Yes, I'll try. I will pray my butt off the whole way through because it's hard. And get help from people. God has brought wise people like yourselves into our lives who have, taught us a lot about supplements and nutrition. And I'm so thankful for that. God is faithful. And the things that we consider bad, I honestly believe that we just are looking through our human glasses. We don't have the full perspective.
Yeah.
And I think too that on the relationship with the Lord has grown and given us a very different perspective, right? Because we do have all this stuff too, a couple of them, and you kind of you see the pendulum swing in the church, right? A lot of times either they don't believe in the healing, or they're so far believing in healing, they're on the opposite spectrum.
There's no compassion.
Right. You're going to be healed, but then no one walks along with you. No one. It's like, okay, yes, I absolutely believe in healing, 100%. But while you're in the process and God's in the process, let me walk with you. How can I help you?
Pray with you.
Yeah. So we've been had many discussion with God on that, and with people, and it's not always an easy conversation, but I've seen so much that Summer's learned help other people. It's been amazing. It really has. And when people have these other issues, you can bring a little bit of knowledge and experience, but really the compassion.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I'm going through that. I'm sorry. How can I help you while you're going through that? Yes, when we pray for you, but how can I help you?
Right.
And that's just not always the perspective that we get.
Right.
And, it's been a good journey.
And not just praying like what I've learned how to do is not just pray my will for people, but to slow down and say, Holy Spirit, what is your heart for this person right now? They're telling me they're hurting. You're just praying, God heal them. You're done. Okay, thanks. See you later. Or is it like the compassion again? You're hurting.
Yeah.
Let me be with you in that. Let me be with you in what's very real for you that you're dealing with. And I don't see people the same anymore about what they're going through. And I'm so grateful for it, even though it's been very frustrating, to say the least, because there's been so many Sundays I've gone to church with, I'm just barely able to stand there because my back would be hurting so bad. They don't understand how hard it was just to get up and go. It hurts so bad. Oh my gosh. And to have people think that their faith is like, well, God's going to heal you. By his stripes you're healed. You're healed already. And I'm like, I want that. I want to be healed already right now, but I'm having a hard time standing here.
Right.
Like, so
Exactly.
obviously I'm not healed already, just right this second, you know, so bear with me in love. And I've had to learn, really, it's been more of a lesson of me bearing with them in love. Bearing with people who intend well, intend beautifully well. I believe that me realizing until they walk through something like that, they might not have a grid for it.
Right.
Yeah, people that haven't been sick, there's no way to explain to people what you're actually going through. There is no way to give them the Vulcan mind meld and let them feel what you felt, because it's not just that you're in pain. I mean, every day you wake up and you go, is today the day maybe that I get to stop hurting? Is today the day that I get to not have anxiety? Could I have one day where I could actually go to McDonald's and have a Big Mac, fries, and a Coke and it not make me sick? Okay, like everybody else gets to do it. And so any one of those things is a big deal. Okay, now compound that with you're young, you have deaf children, you're trying to navigate having children, being married, having a life, you're in pain. There's no diagnosis really. And once they do give you a diagnosis, the only treatment they have is to further suppress your immune system, which comes with this other huge list of side effects, which include leukemia and other happy, fun things that you could get if you choose to go down that path. And oh, by the way, other than that, we ain't got much.
Right.
And you get to figure out how to sort that out. I mean, if you're like me, I mean, I've had some great doctors, and I tell people all the time, I'm not anti-doctor. I've got a great doctor at UT Southwestern for my autoimmune hypertrophic cardiac myopathy, but that's not where my peace and comfort come from. I mean, yes, I got them if I need them, but you know, just like you, I didn't choose to go down their treatment path.
Yeah.
You know, and you've gone down another path, you know, and Robert and I have known each other for a long time. And part of my path was I ultimately ended up figuring out that I thought that stem cells would probably help me, and had that conversation with Robert. And so one of the things I know you guys ultimately did is you ended up having stem cell therapy.
Yeah, we did. We looked at stem cells probably 4 or 5 years ago, but you had to leave the country. It wasn't available in the United States. It was extremely expensive, unaffordable, and you know that wasn't the fit. And I think we had a conversation last summer, and you asked, "Hey, you still interested?" And so we met with the doctors and some good conversations. And
thank you for bringing that up, Mike. Like,
yeah,
really life-saving, like
life-changing, sure.
So much gratitude. Thank you.
So you know, just real quick, for people that don't know what stem cell therapy is, you know, it's stem cells. The way I explained it are the cells that made you, and the stem cells you've had and that I've received are umbilical cord stem cells. They're not fetal stem cells. Healthy mom, healthy baby. These are harvested and they're put into our bodies, and our bodies know what to do with them. So I'm just curious, you know, you've been down all these paths, you've tried all these things, and you finally try stem cell. What's, you know, and for people that think stem cells an instant miracle, it's not. So let me just tell you that straight up. So I'd really like to hear in some detail what your path since you received stem cell therapy, what that's been, how long has it been, and kind of what's happened.
It's been about 6 months since my first stem cell therapy. I had intravenous stem cell therapy, 2 cc's, and right away, I am going to say right away, within the first couple weeks, I noticed I was not as tired. I had to have a nap every day. It was not, it wasn't just a gift I was giving myself because I'd like a nap. I couldn't make it through the day. I was so fatigued, and I had to have a nap, and I quit needing naps. That was my first thing. I was like, wow, it's the end of the day. And I made it. I made it and I didn't have to go crash, you know? So that was something. And, you know, honestly, I couldn't have done any of this without this guy right here. Like, that's just he's been a real cheerleader for me, but he's never told me to feel better than I felt, or that, well, isn't it working yet? Or he's never been, you know, he said, why don't you write a log? And I think you gave him the idea, Mike. Why don't you see what's going on? Like, write how you're feeling and write again and see how you're feeling like in a week. And then see what changes. And that's the first thing that I noticed that changed, was that I had energy.
Yeah.
I started noticing pain going down for me. Like, it's been, okay, 6 months in now. This has just been in the last month, I would say. I'm waking up and I'm not like, I mean, literally, I would wake up and just to get out of the bed, I'm like, I sound like I'm old. It's been really difficult to move, especially in the morning. Ankylosing spondylitis is a morning difficult disease. You're stiff as a board. I mean, and with age, you get stiff anyway. That's normal, but it's a different type of stiff. It's very, very, very painful. And I haven't been dealing with that. I'm waking up and I'm getting up and I'm moving and I'm like, wow, my back's not killing me. You know, that's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge. I still have some symptoms. I'm waiting. The lung symptoms are still there for me. They're not as bad as they were.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm so hopeful because I'm seeing changes, you know, pain levels. I mean, and I would get sick from food. I'm still very careful with my food. I still have to be careful with that because I'll feel sick, because I'll get sick. I can't handle lots of oil. I can't handle lots of processed foods. I just have to listen to my body. But I do, every now and then, I do jump into a cheeseburger every now and then. I mean, very rarely for me, that, you know, but that I'm not feeling sick every single day is huge. It's huge. It's hard to even explain, like, the way it's.
And from the outside looking in, right, there was so much pain. It was very difficult to travel, right? Any long distances in the car. You know, so one thing I noticed is probably about 45 days, 60 days in, the pain started not going, but decreasing, right? And then mobility's been up, and you know, Christmas she went and drove and picked up her grandmother from West Texas there and back in the same day. Spent 14 hours in a car, and I mean, that just, you know,
I couldn't even be in the car for an hour. I would be complaining. I don't complain about pain anymore. Poor him, he had to hear me. I'm like, ouch, I'm hurting so bad. Because I would hurt so bad all day long, just traveling.
Yeah, so it's been night and day. It really has. Just been a major miracle for us.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Well, that's you know, I know and one of the reasons I wanted to have you guys on is you guys are, you know, what I call a kind of a typical normal American family, except when you're dealing with something like this where it just totally can dominate your life. But one of the things I heard you say earlier that I'd like for you to touch on, because I know it's been a big deal for me, is when you go through something like this, it does open the door for you to be much more empathetic with other people. When people tell me they're sick, I don't ever have the thought that it's in their head, because like you, I was told, well, it's just in your head, right? You just it can't be that bad. Well, yeah, it can. You know, it took me years to get a diagnosis for my idioangioedema, and then years after that to figure out what the real root cause was, which is hypertrophic cardiac myopathy, and to deal with that. So I know you went a long time while you're figuring all this out. You go through all this. Give me the good side, the byproduct of people you now can deal with, and maybe help them down a path of making a good healthcare decision, or of a decision how to get on a path. How's that worked out? How many people end up coming to you going, help?
Do you see that happening?
Yeah, I see it some. I think my wife is very transparent, right? Which is one of the things I love about her. And so she'll tell you, right, how it is. And so people either gravitate towards that or they run from it. That's what I see. So there's people that are uncomfortable enough that want help, and then they'll ask for it.
Yeah.
And there's people that are uncomfortable, but they're not really willing, right? They're not willing to do kind of the path that she's gone. They're not willing to do the things that she's done, and they don't really take it. And so for the people that really do want to get better, they don't just want to listen to the doctor. I think the rheumatologist, I think the best thing he ever told us was, if you're not going to do the immunosuppressants, there's nothing else I can do. You might as well go somewhere else. It's kind of permission, right?
Right.
So but we're not doing that. So we need to go find our own way. So I've seen her help a lot of people, and I've also seen those same people, or not those same people, but people that really don't. They want the easy answer. They just want to take a pill. They don't really want to have to learn. I mean, she would walk into a doctor's office and know more about ankylosing spondylitis than any of the doctors.
Yeah.
And then they would almost, not all doctors this way, but a lot of them kind of have the ego, and they want to argue with her. And I'm sitting there going, you have no idea. You don't even know what this is, and she does. And it's sad in some ways, right? It's not a real common thing, but I think that there's a lot of people that she's helped.
Well, I found a community of other people with ankylosing spondylitis. Thank God for Facebook.
Yeah.
And several of them do things the way that I do with food. I mean, food is never going to quit being a medicine for me. I'm so grateful that I know the truth about food, that I know the truth about sugar. I know the truth about processed foods. I know the truth about, I want healthy food. I crave it now. I crave living food, because I know it brings life. And I feel like a walking billboard for wellness.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't really come across me and not hear about God, wellness, and now stem cells, really. I mean, I can't stop talking about stem cells, and I really do feel like I'm somewhat pressing them on people, but I am seeing people with so many issues, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, you have no idea how this could help you. Like, I know you don't believe it. I didn't believe it. I didn't believe these things could help me. I didn't think anything else was really going to help me. I thought I was just going to have to live like this forever. I'm not. I'm living without pain controlling my life. It does not control my life at all anymore. Not at all. I have choice all day long. I don't have to use anything. I'm doing yoga. I'm dancing. I mean, that's amazing to me that I could do that. It's just so miraculous.
So I got to ask you, so as you go down this path, I know it's happened to me. I'm just curious how many people look at you like you're just absolutely out of your mind for not just blindly following the traditional medical pathway? How many people look at you like you're just crazy?
I'd say 95%.
Yeah.
I mean, I really hate to put it that way, but most people, unless they've gotten to the place I've gotten of being so frustrated with not having answers, will not look the other way. And I mean, I guess it's taken so many years where we've thrown money away searching for answers everywhere. I mean, there's really, that it gets to a point where you're willing to sacrifice. If there's another thing, let me try this other thing. And again, coming back to faith, I think that I know God puts people in our path for a reason. and I pray on my choices, and I follow peace. And I get the fruit of that. I get the fruit of following the peace. I get to see it answered, and it's not always in my time frame at all. But yeah, it's sad to me that I can't seem to convince people. So I realize it's been humbling to be like, okay, God, you tell them. Okay, you just keep putting people in their path. That's what you did for me, and I'm so thankful for the people that you've put in my path, and that I've been receptive, and that I've had ears to hear this life-giving way, not immunosuppressants, not life-taking, but life-giving. You know, I couldn't be more grateful for knowing the truth. But again, people don't always want the truth.
Right. Well, I think you touched on something really important there, that, there are those people who believe in full healing, and but then they turn around and, turn away people who are trying to heal them, that God's put in their path to heal them. And they're like, God's going to heal me. And, God's like, yes, I am going to heal you, because I'm putting these people in your life to help heal you. And so I think that's so important, is that we have ears to hear, that we listen, and that, we follow that path to, really just understand that, yes, we believe in healing, and we believe, that we can be fully healed, but we also have such great medical advances, and there's so many things that can help heal us and can help get us that healing in today's, day and age, that it's just important to have those ears to hear and listen to, who God's putting in front of us.
That's so wise, Marissa. Yeah, so much wisdom there.
You ever feel like, I know I go through this all the time. I want people to have the information way more than they're willing to receive the information. I mean, just like if I ask you, you know how bad sugar is for people, right? I mean, you know that by and large, whether it's gluten or whether it's the glyphosates that are in gluten, there's some, whatever it is, but we know that by and large, taking that out of our diet is a good thing. For most people, eliminating dairy would be a really great thing. For everybody that possibly listens to this, eliminating processed foods from your diet would be an awesome thing. But most people don't want to hear any of that. Right. Wait a minute, I'll just eat those things. I'll go to my doctor and I'll get the medicine for GERD. I'll get my metformin for my diabetes. I'll get my lisinopril for my blood pressure. I'll take all these medicines and I'll go not live as long or be healthy.
Well, and it's hard, I mean, it's very overwhelming when you're trying something like that. So, I mean, I can appreciate it. I remember in the very beginning going gluten-free was very difficult. Mm-hmm. But after about 6 months of completely gluten-free, my asthma was gone.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to have a nebulizer all the way through college.
Wow.
When I was a little bitty kid.
Yeah.
Right. So we've seen it in so many different ways, but it's extremely overwhelming. And so, if you know somebody that's already been that path, it's so much easier to go ask for help. Most people don't want to ask for help. I don't really like asking anyone for help. My wife can attest, but I mean, it can be, if you want to go make that drastic change, it can be scary. It can be hard. It can be overwhelming, but boy, it's really worth it. I mean, we've seen it over and over in our lives doing different things. And we look at our kids and how their health has changed.
And they have freedom. I mean, honestly, anybody who tries some sort of an elimination diet, the best way to figure out if it's going to work for you is to try it and then see how you feel after a certain period of time when you bring it back in. It's not even like, it's worth it. It's so worth it. I think too, Mike, it's a valid question. Thank you so much for asking that, because it is like, I think people can't receive it until they're ready. They just, and I have to have, enough inward peace to realize, okay, this is really good for me. I know it will help a bunch of other people. And then God give me patience as I offer it out, because most of them are not going to receive what I have to give. But the ones who our will. And connecting with people who, like yourself, get it is one of the highlights of my life. Like, I love when I can speak wellness with people, not medicine, wellness. Let's talk about getting healthy. Let's not talk about throwing medicine on something. Let's talk about being well. And this is a whole body thing. This is mind, this is spirit, this is absolutely food and everything we put in, but our world doesn't encourage you to really look like that. It says blind yourself, throw something at it to make it be quiet so you can stay in denial forever,
Right.
Yeah, the problem is what you just described comes at a tremendous cost.
Yeah.
And the cost is longevity. For the first time in the history of the United States, the actuarial tables have turned and your kids aren't going to live as long as you do. Okay, that's one. And number two, the last 10 years, the quality of life for the last 10 years of Americans is like going down the other side of a roller coaster. I mean, people are in Alzheimer's, memory care units. They're living the last 10 years of their lives with diabetes and blood pressure and obesity. What do you think? It's a freaking $1 billion industry building those electric scooters. Every amusement park, right? They got rental things for people to get on the electric scooter. They got them at the grocery store. Now, I mean, people can't even walk through the store. And that's just normal. That's the norm. Now it's just accepted as the way it is. And it doesn't have to be that way. But the good news is people are starting to listen. I have more and more people that listen. There's people that don't. And I've just had to learn not to take it personal. I like being 60 years old and being able to walk out the front door and ride my bike 100 miles. I like being 60 years old and being able to walk out the door and run 5, 10, 15 miles if I want to. I like being 60 years old. And if I wanted to jump in the car and make a 20-hour drive to California right now, I can do it, and then still get up and function the next day. I don't want that other alternative, but I do things to be able to facilitate that. But once you make the change, what you find out is life's actually so much better. You didn't know how bad you felt till you feel good. Right. You just don't.
And then you just, even if you could go back, you wouldn't.
Oh, geez, man.
I would not.
Yeah. And I think that's such a gift too. I'm so glad that I had someone that taught me how to feel good, but not only for that reason, but I have an almost 9-month-old now, and it's so comforting to me knowing that my dad's taking his health seriously, so that in 10 years, whenever he's ready to go to Disney World, I know that my dad's just going to be right there trucking along with us. He's not going to need the walker or the electric scooter. He's going to be running right beside Winston, ready to go hop on the rides. And I think that's, such a gift that, not only is he giving himself, but he's giving his family. And so I think that's just, something awesome that we get to do. And that was something, I think that y'all touched on that I love, is that yes, there are people who are not willing to hear, but there are people who are looking for answers. And our biggest reason for starting this was, if we just helped one person in the process, then it was worth it. It was worth the time. It was worth the effort, if we just got through to one person. And so I think it's awesome that, you're coming out and telling your story, and, you're willing to have that patience to tell people, even if it just helps one person. And I just think that's awesome. So,
and we're all easy to find on Facebook. And I know Summer and Robert, if you message them, would engage you in conversation. If you want to ask them about their stem cell journey, if you message them on Facebook, they would happily engage you in that conversation, just like Marissa and I would. Guys, I know I don't know if you know this or not, but we're 45 minutes deep.
I know. I feel like I could talk to you guys forever, but
and I mean, we could spend 30 minutes just talking about, being your own advocate in terms of the healthcare system. Maybe we'll do that another time. But I just wanted to thank you guys for taking your Sunday evening.
Yes, thank you so much.
There'll be thousands of people watch this. Most people watch it in replay, and this is longer, so people will watch this at night. But I think that people can find some nuggets here that will impact their lives. And more importantly, I wanted them to hear that you can complete the journey. You guys, it's a process, just like I went through a process, but you get to the end of it. Now that you're there, and whatever it took to get to the point with stem cells worked for you to get there, that I tried it, told Robert about it, got it to you. Okay. You know, whatever it takes, however you get there. But if you had taken yourself off the journey, that wouldn't have happened. You would have never been exposed to that, because you would have submitted to the other and just resigned yourself to go through your lot in life. But instead you didn't. And now all of a sudden, you know, you get up and no longer is it a pain dominant life. And who'd have thought? I mean, just a few years ago, we didn't think that was what we're doing now is even possible.
Great.
So
Thank you so much,
Thanks for
Mike,
having us.
really. And thank you for all of your wisdom, and Marissa. Thank you so.
Well, thank you guys for taking time out of your Sunday, and thank all of you who are with us watching. And you know, we're just so thankful to be connected with people like you guys who are, you know, taking, you know, the path less traveled, but are having success in doing that. So
many
awesome.
blessings
Yes.
to everybody. You guys have a wonderful and blessed evening, and we'll see you again next Sunday night.
Yes, thank you.
Bye-bye.